Caregiving can sometimes feel like an impossible struggle. Caregivers may be torn between taking care of loved ones and trying to maintain balance in life. The good news is that it doesn't have to be that way. The Caring Generation with host Pamela D. Wilson is here to focus on the conversation of caring. You're not alone. In fact, you're in exactly the right place to share stories and learn tips and resources to help you and your loved ones. So now, please welcome the host of The Caring Generation, Pamela D. Wilson.
This is Pamela D. Wilson, caregiving expert, speaker, consultant, and guardian of the Caring Generation. The Caring Generation focuses on the conversation of caring, giving us permission to talk about aging, the challenges of caregiving, and everything in between. It's no surprise that needing a caregiver changes everything. The Caring Generation is here to guide you along the journey, to let you know that you're not alone. You are in exactly the right place to share stories and learn about caregiving programs and resources to help you and your loved ones plan for what's ahead. Invite your parents, spouses, family, friends, colleagues, coworkers, and everyone you know to listen to the show, available on podcast apps worldwide. If you have a question or an idea for a future program, or you'd like a caregiving consultation, you can contact me through my website, PamelaDWilson.com. Click on the Contact Me button, fill out my contact form or my caregiver survey. You can also share your idea with me by commenting on my social media posts on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and LinkedIn. Welcome to the Caring Generation, and this week's episode, number 176. How to know when you can't do it anymore. We'll talk about how circumstances, thoughts, beliefs, and interactions with other people can prevent caregivers from making beneficial changes in their lives, regardless of your life situation. A sense of being comfortable or even familiarity can hold you back from creating a better life. This happens to all of us. We get so comfortable in our skin that we don't want to do the work to change anything. So stay with me for 12 insights that apply to all life situations, including being that caregiver or the person who needs care. Because until you realize that there's so much more potential in life, until you realize that you have choices, you may not be able to find that tipping point or recognize that crossroads that tells you that you can't do it anymore, or maybe you shouldn't do it anymore, or just, I don't want to do it anymore and I'm going to make a change. So this crossroads can involve finding other options besides you to care for a parent, or really other options for anything that you want to change. Maybe you want to change jobs. Maybe you want more friends in your life. Maybe you want to be healthier or feel better or lose weight or take a vacation or get a pet. There's a lot of things we want to do, right? But part of this is finding ways to maintain a positive outlook and balancing emotions. And so when you're getting to this point of, I just don't know if I can do this anymore, a lot of times those emotions turn negative. There are so many opportunities to level up your life and to gain the confidence so that you can move forward. So let's get started for number 1, how to know when you can't do it anymore and when change actually might be really good for you. Some questions for you. Do you feel trapped in your caregiving situation or relationship? Do you feel powerless to make any changes? Because you feel stuck, do you spend a lot of time sharing your frustrations with anybody who will listen? Your friends, your family, new people that you meet? Have you become this complainer who drives off friends and people who initially seem to be a good sounding board or somebody that you could just vent to? Do any of these people who listen to you offer suggestions that you just ignore or push aside? Are these friends or acquaintances getting to the point where they're losing patience with you? And are they spending less time with you? If they are, they might be avoiding you because they don't want to listen to the same stories over and over again. Not that they're not compassionate, but they may see you as a complainer who only wants to complain and do nothing about your situation. They may start spending less time with you because you are perceived as needy or complaining, or you only want to have somebody listen to you and you don't listen to them. So there's this imbalance in the relationship. What they see is that you no longer have anything to give, you only take, because all you can talk about are your problems that you feel powerless to change and that you do nothing about. So when you have conversations with others, notice how much time you spend talking versus listening. If it's more than 50%, then you may be complaining or talking too much. If you want to maintain or continue these relationships, you've got to find more balance and be a support to them rather than them just being viewed as somebody who can listen to you or somebody that you can vent to. So think about the suggestion and some of the others that I'm going to make during this program, because it may be something valuable for you to try. And if you're not really sure if your friends are getting tired of your complaining, why don't you just ask? Imagine that. Do I complain too much? Am I negative? Do I seem like I'm stuck? What do you think? You might be surprised at their responses. So all of these discussions that can spin and spin and spin, you can shift it to problem solving and working through the issues instead of choosing to remain powerless or stuck. Number 2 for how to know when you can't do it anymore is when you find yourself doing a lot of what you do not want to do. Like many caregivers, have you lost yourself in all of the task work? Are there things that you did before becoming a caregiver that you miss? What time or activities have you traded or shifted to caregiving tasks? We all do it. We all do it every day when we go to work. We trade time, personal time, to go to work so that we can earn an income to be able to do things on our free time or on our off time. Life is all about trading time. If you're a caregiver, do all of these activities make you feel exhausted, or do they make you feel excited to be alive? That can be a sign that maybe you need to change. If most of the things that you do make you feel burned out and tired and exhausted and impatient with other people. The third thing to notice is, do you think that other people are happier than you are? Are they moving on with their lives, advancing their careers, having more fun, doing things that they love? Do you feel envious of these people? Do you find yourself obsessing about another person's life, what they do, things they share on social media, things they talk about, and all of the reasons that they don't have time to help you? Now, this person admittedly could be your brother or sister, or another family member, or even a friend who doesn't seem to care. As a caregiver, when you're watching everybody else go on with their life because you have made a different choice, it's really easy to get stuck in this spiral of envy. I'm going to put a research study in this podcast transcript, but research does confirm that people with high levels of envy only think about what they lack. They think about what they don't have, and they think more about other people's lives or possessions. Now, all that does, though, is make you feel inferior. It can lead to a lack of self-esteem. You can feel depressed. The more that you compare yourself to other people, the more you focus on these gaps or differences that exist instead of focusing on how to close those gaps, which you can do if you set your mind to it. Number 4, for how to know when you can't do it anymore, is when you recognize that the people you spend time with are negative or discouraging. So just like before, where you might be that negative person, are the people that you spend time with negative? Because being around negative people results in what? Being negative. If you're that caregiver, this negative or discouraging person, they might be struggling with depression or feeling stuck or feeling hopeless, much like you. So you're in the same boat. 2 people who are feeling stuck and hopeless cannot raise the ship, cannot raise the mindset unless one of them changes. Now let's talk about other situations that can be negative or discouraging to make this a little more understandable. So workplace cultures can be negative or discouraging. Workplace teams and families can have a lack of trust that makes working together toward common goals difficult. Now you have to have those common goals in the first place, right? Being around negative and discouraging people can transfer their negativity to you and influence how or what you think, just as your negativity can influence other people. It's important for all of us to pay very close attention to our thoughts all the time, regardless of when we're around positive or negative people. And then if we find that we're around negative people, we can counteract this by saying, you know what? I choose to remain positive despite the circumstances of the situation. I'm not going to let other people pull me over to their way of negative thinking. The more time that we spend in negative thoughts, the less time we have available to commit to positive activities or to think about ways to improve or close these gaps that we see as not being ideal. So we have to begin to say no, to say, I'm not going to allow other people to influence my emotions or my thoughts. It's so easy to say, and we've all said this, oh, that person made me mad, or that person did this, or, all of that kind of stuff, right? We're blaming it on other people rather than owning our emotions. The question to ask is, why do I feel this way? Why does this person make me feel this way? And then we have to figure out how to resolve those emotions. In situations where we feel trapped or powerless, and we're doing a lot of what we don't like, and we're around negative or discouraging people, we also get into these ruts where we don't realize that we do have choices, which is number 5 for how to know when you can't do it anymore. Choice always exists, even though caregivers will disagree with me to the ends of the earth. Choice always exists. Even though at any given time there may not seem like there are any good choices, you do have choices. So to resolve this one, I suggest learning how to mind shift. You got to think about getting rid of all that clutter and the baggage that clogs up your mind and keeps you down. Clutter is anything that doesn't make you feel good about yourself or your abilities. It's those thoughts, those experiences. Now, one way to figure this out is to write down your thoughts or keep a journal so that you can figure out what you think that harms or takes you away from achieving what you want, from achieving your goal. Now, obviously, you need to have a goal. Goals can be very simple or very complicated things. Something like, I want to be happier and more positive every day. I want to get a new job. I want to go out to lunch once a week. I want to go exercise. I want to take my dog for a walk. Simple things. We also have to look at the assumptions that we make about caregiving to be able to mind shift. And one example of that is to say, I have no choice but to be a caregiver. You do have a choice. You're making that choice every day by the actions that you take. And until you choose to believe that you have a choice, nothing will change and you'll stay stuck. Now, getting unstuck does take some effort. It takes steps to create your goals and think about a strategy and what you want and then how you're going to get there. So if you really want to make this work, write it down. Create that list of things that you want in your life. Then associate it with a calendar and a timeline and how you're going to get there. Sometimes you may have to investigate what you need to get there. Then start thinking about behaviors that you can adjust and how you'll change your mindset. And consider that change may require that you think differently and that you do things differently and that you have to rearrange your schedule and change some of your habits. So we have to get over the hump that we think that it's not possible to change, especially when we are at a point in caregiving where we feel like, I just cannot do this anymore. So let's take a short break and we're going to return with more of what to do when you feel like you cannot keep going and being that caregiver. You're with me on The Caring Generation. I'm Pamela D. Wilson. There are over 170 episodes of this podcast. You can find all of them on your favorite podcast apps and music apps. Just search for The Caring Generation. Also visit my website, PamelaDWilson.com, where you'll find a library full of articles, my blog, an in-depth online caregiver program, videos my book. Lots of hope, help, and support for caregivers and people who need care. Stay with me. I'll be right back. This is Pamela D. Wilson, caregiving expert, advocate, and speaker. We're back with number 176 of the Caring Generation podcast episodes, How to Know When You Can't Do It Anymore. We're on number 6. What holds you back from realizing that you can't do it anymore? Well, it could be fear of change, which is another way to know when you can't do it anymore. When you are afraid to make any changes in your life, when you don't know what to do, when you're feeling stuck, that might be the indicator that you've got to take the next step. Maybe you've become comfortable in a really bad situation. Maybe you've moved in with your parents, you're caring for them, they're negative, you don't have a job, you don't have any money, you can't take care of yourself. Maybe you've got family members who won't help, you're feeling like nothing can change. But you know who's involved. Even though you may not trust or like these people anymore, your life definitely is stable and it's repetitive. But is it really what you want? Probably not. And so caregivers in these situations can worry about everything. They can get very hypervigilant, where all of your focus is on caring for an aging parent, and you constantly respond to unexpected situations, which makes it impossible to plan for yourself, but it also makes the people that you care for more reliant on you to know that if they need something, you are immediately going to show up and meet their needs. And I know this because I've been there. For more than 20 years, I managed care for the elderly and the disabled. And in many situations, I was that legally responsible person, medical or financial power of attorney, the guardian, or the conservator. And what that means is that when all these unexpected situations came up, I was that person who got the call, whether it was 2 o'clock in the morning, whether I was out on a hike somewhere, having dinner with friends, or even on vacation. That type of daily disruption can contribute to how to know when you can't do it anymore, or you shouldn't do it anymore, and give you reasons to know that it's just time for a change. Number 7 for how to know when you can't do it anymore is that you have lost your enthusiasm for life. You can't find anything that's good in your life. You've become apathetic. You just don't give a damn anymore, right? Nothing excites you. That's a danger zone. That's a point where it's important to make yourself find something or someone who inspires you. And it really doesn't matter what this is. You got to find it. You got to dig down deep. Stop yourself from drowning in that quicksand or falling into what I call this bottomless pit that it's going to be really hard to drag yourself out of. It's easy in so many situations to see all these gaps that feel impossible to change because they seem so big. And specific to caregiving, if there is this gap, you're the only person who can close the gap between your life and what you want your life to be. Nobody else can do it for you. There's not anybody else who's willing to step in probably to replace you. Maybe there is if you're lucky. And you probably know this because you've asked for the help from siblings and others who refuse to get involved. They've got their reasons. It's okay for you to have your reasons to move past this. So to get there, you have to move past any envious feelings or anger or resentment. You got to spend time closing the gap. Commit to yourself. But first, you got to find something or somebody who inspires you or motivates you. And I'll give an example of this. I was watching a program on TV a couple weeks ago. Very well-known individual talking about, why this person has been successful. And the main theme that this person mentioned was really being passionate about something. Now, the second theme was not doing anything that didn't raise the bar or make things better for the audience that this person served. So they were very discretionary about where they put their time and their thoughts and their efforts. As caregivers, you know that your time and your thoughts and your efforts are so scattered. You're not really focused on doing anything. You're doing everything, right? In a lot of cases, you feel like you're not doing everything really good. So when you think about this, we all go down these rabbit holes of unproductive or unconstructive time when we get distracted, which honestly isn't to say that there are not times when we don't want to think about anything and we just want to be entertained. For myself, I go to a movie, right, to escape. But for all of us, if we allow mental distractions to take over our life, we're never going to be able to close those gaps and get to where we want to go if that means change in any area. So in caregiving, in work, in relationships. So the next question, where do you find people who can inspire or motivate you? They are everywhere. Think of a hobby or an interest that you have. If you like business or football or bird watching or fishing or gardening or cooking, there are people out there, there are experts who are doing this and loving it. There's leaders, there are role models in all of these categories. There's a lot of books and articles out there constantly being published online, hard copies. Do your research, read. There's actually a huge statistic about the number of people who no longer read books. According to a Gallup poll, put the link in the podcast transcript here, the people who read the most include college graduates, women, and older adults. Reading as an activity is declining because there's so many competing activities, right? There's so many distractions taking us away from helpful information that could support us achieving our goals. So in my opinion, the best way to learn new skills is to seek information through any type of reading or research and spend time with people who are succeeding, find role models. There's so many ways to do this. So I want to talk about losing patience and compassion, which is the next one up for how to know when it's time to make a change. But have you lost patience and compassion for things that you used to do with a smile? Today, any irritation just hijacks your emotions, pisses you off, right? And sends you down this path of being angry the rest of the day. There are these points where caregivers become so burned out and exhausted that having to continue in this role or this situation that no longer serves you is going to be bad for your health and your well-being. When you find yourself at this point, it's really time to realize that you may no longer be that best person to care for your mom or a dad or a spouse. You need to be the person who cares for yourself. And there's nothing wrong with that. That is perfectly okay. If you're like most caregivers, I will tell you that you don't give yourself enough credit for everything that you've done. And you probably feel guilty for wanting the situation to end. So here's an example that more people may be able to relate to. And this need for change is no different, like if you're a caregiver, than being in a job, for example, that you've outgrown. Or you're working for a company where the culture or goals have changed so much that you don't fit anymore. It's just not a match for you. There's these outside circumstances that change, right? Everybody can identify with that. Minor irritations can lead to number 9 for realizing when you can't do it anymore, which is just being dissatisfied. The only thing you can think of is you want to escape. You want to end it. And some people think of ending it without having to walk away. I've had caregivers contact me saying, Pamela, I'm thinking of committing suicide. It would be so much easier than having to deal with all of this stuff that seems so impossible. If you're listening and you feel this way, call 988. It's a suicide hotline where people are there to talk about you. All of this feeling dissatisfied with life and being unable to cope can also lead to some habits that you would never normally have done. Might be drinking, using substances. Maybe you're depressed, you want to sleep all day. Other signs of depression, feeling sad or anxious, constantly worrying, feeling hopeless, pessimistic. You're exhausted, you don't have any energy. You can also be mentally distracted and find it difficult to concentrate, which is needed to identify gaps and make a plan. And then there's weight loss and weight gain, which a lot of us experience, even just from the effects of stress, right? Stress can make us feel similar to these things that make us feel depressed. So you might be wondering how to get yourself back, how to be that person who used to be happy and enthusiastic. Well, depending on how long you have been a caregiver and how long you've allowed yourself to remain in this situation that is not good for you, this can be a challenge. It may take some time to dig your way out or work your way out. But the bright spot is that you can work your way out. All you need is a belief that you and your situation can change. And one way to do this is just to create a statement that gives you confidence and hope. For example, I am stronger than I realize. I choose to be positive. I'm going to chase my dreams and do what I need to remain positive and hopeful. Beyond this, it's extremely important to identify your why. Like, if you're feeling down, why am I doing this? I'm doing this so that I can, have some free time or go do some things that I like. I want to be able to provide for my family, live some of my dreams. So here's the last hurdle, or one of the last hurdles. Number 10 for what to do when you can't do it anymore is to stop making excuses for why you can't change, why the situation can't change, why this is impossible. You have to be willing to see that impossible situations can change. Work to end being defensive if other people give you suggestions. End resistance to trying new things. You're going to have to try new things. Think differently and work to create new habits if you want to change your life. You got to find a cheerleader, somebody that can support your ideas, somebody that can encourage you to keep going once you figure out this dream that you want to achieve. Also, stop waiting for events to happen. And this can be a little challenging. Parents who are raising children and adult children caring for parents often say to me, well, there's too much to do and I have to wait for this thing before I can do the next thing. And I get it. Timelines, processes, projects, they're hard to plan. But you know what? If you don't plan, you're not going to make progress. And even if you plan and you have to change it, at least you made some progress before that change happened, right? So number 11 for how to know when you can't do it anymore could be when you or other people saying, I can't do it. You're making excuses. You're being resentful. Well, we've all heard that statement, where there is a will, there is a way. How are other people doing what you want to do? Because there are people out there doing what you want to do. If you're struggling, it's because you may be just used to doing things a certain way and you're not willing to change your habits. So again, let's talk about work because we can all relate to that. Let's say that you want a promotion. Everybody around you is getting promoted. You're not. Do you know why? Have you asked your supervisor why? Have you asked your colleagues? Do you have a negative attitude? Is there something that's affecting your ability to succeed? Is your work of equal or better quality than your peers if you want to get promoted? Do you have leadership qualities? If you want to be promoted, ask your supervisor to work with you on a list of skills that you must accomplish to be promoted. Those are the gaps, right? This is no different than being a caregiver. What are the things you want? What will it take for you to gain the skills, the confidence, and the abilities? Because we can't just jump from A to Z in 24 hours, especially if we've been in this caregiving situation for some time. And if you're a caregiver, it's really easy to be out of touch with life and current events and trends, which is number 12 for knowing when you can't do it anymore. It's when the world is changing around you and you're not keeping up. And let's use technology as an example. If you can't use a computer or type and you want to get a job, that could be a gap, especially if you want an administrative or a professional position. Here's an example. When I was a care manager and I had my business, there were so many qualified and wonderful CNAs, certified nursing assistants, who wanted to work their way into care coordination and care management. They were great with people. They had great skills, but they didn't know how to type or use computer programs. So a lot of those had to go learn those skills before they could be considered for this job because it required data entry. It required documentation of outcomes and results, which they normally did not do in their job. And so it was a different skill that they didn't use every day in patient care, even though they were great patient caregivers. So as a caregiver, you may be awesome as a caregiver, but you may lack skills to help you get back into the workforce or get promoted. So I hope that this information has been helpful. I hope that all of this helps you avoid getting to that place where you feel like you really can't do it for another day. Again, find ways to positively reinforce what you want to do every day instead of what you don't want to do. And start thinking for today, not, I'll be happy tomorrow or I'll be happy next week. Try to figure out what you can do today to make you happy. And even more so, try to figure out why you think you can't do what you can't do and go after those issues. Attack them with everything that you have. Figure out how to make what you want happen. Life is this very long game. And the people who do the best, become more educated, more resilient, more persistent, and they keep going. The benefit of being a caregiver and realizing that you can't do it anymore is that you gain all these insights about how to care for your health and plan for your future if you've been doing this for somebody else. Or if you're married, maybe you make a plan so that your children don't have to become your caregivers. There is a lesson in everything, no matter how positive or negative that experience is. It's just that sometimes we don't see that lesson until it's a long way down the road. But if you keep asking yourself every day, what is the lesson I am supposed to learn from this? Help me understand this. Be open to input, feedback, even a little bit of tough love from other people that you trust, so that you can learn the lesson, so that whatever this challenge is that you're going for, you get past it, so that it doesn't repeat in your life, so that you can move on to new adventures. I thank you all for being here. Please check out the other 170 plus episodes and share this podcast with everybody that you know. Go to my YouTube channel. There are over 800 videos there on Medicaid, Medicare, how to pay for care for aging parents, how to deal with difficult family situations, how to deal with doctors. So much information. This is Pamela D. Wilson, caregiving expert on the caring generation. I look forward to being with you again soon. God bless you all. Sending love to everybody. Sleep well tonight. Have a fabulous day tomorrow. And enjoy each day until we are here together again.
Tune in each week for The Caring Generation with host Pamela D. Wilson. Come join the conversation and see how Pamela can provide solutions and peace of mind for everyone. Here on Pamela D. Wilson's The Caring Generation.